So I don't know if you guys have been to Ubisoft's LinkedIn page lately, but there is a lot of information on there that I feel people would find very useful, including this most recent blog post from them that only came out just a few hours ago. In reality, this blog post is actually a rabbit hole into darker, more terrifying things. But first we have to read what they say here before we start digging. So it says, discover, develop at Ubisoft. This exciting program provides mentorship opportunities for women and non-binary individuals in the early stages of their gaming industry journey, offering tracks for game design and programming. Coming to studios around the world, applications open September 16th. Save the date, and in the meantime, get a closer look. So they put this program together for women and non-binary individuals, they say, but their main focus is underrepresented genders in the gaming industry. They want to get more people that are non-binary, trans, etc., more diverse and inclusive folk to work in their industry through these programs that enable them to get hired at different places. And this goes far beyond just Ubisoft, as they state themselves that they don't just want people to work at their company through this program, but they also want them to get hired at other companies as well. This is an organization-wide effort, and it's being spread to other organizations. In fact, this program has been in place for quite some time. It's been around for a few years already, which we're going to look into a little bit. Join the Develop at Ubisoft Mentorship Program. Applications open on September 16th. And they already have a bunch of comments on this, pushing back against it. Noah Walker, a writer, editor, and narrative designer, said, hey, I'm just curious, what if I'm a guy trying to begin my career in the game industry? When do y'all have a mentorship opportunity I could apply to? Or should I go kick rocks since I'm not the correct gender? So of course, men are omitted from this program unless you identify as a woman. That is actually allowed, which I will read into in just a moment. But somebody responded saying, even I was thinking the same, and another commenter said, opportunities for women and non-binary individuals, yikes, nice discrimination, your stock plummeting for the same ridiculous mentality that has been going in that company, stupid decision and stupid products, and still focusing on that DEI nonsense. Well, Francisco, you have no idea how dedicated they truly are to the DEI push. In fact, they have put a secret plan in place that has been active for the last couple of years, and at this point, we are only about halfway through it, and I will show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But before that, we got to read this one more comment that says, you lot going down, go woke, go broke. But we have to see what this Develop at Ubisoft program is, because not only is it pushing the exact same nonsense that we've been trying to fight against in the gaming industry for a while now, it is indeed a branch off of a much bigger ploy that they are trying to push on their organization as well as other organizations in the industry. So they say here that at Ubisoft, we want to build the most creative, diverse, and inclusive teams, and that's exactly what Develop at Ubisoft is all about. Empowering and supporting underrepresented genders. The program provides mentorship opportunities for women and non-binary individuals. What's so interesting about this is the requirements that you have to meet in order to be in this program or to complete it. Eligibility criteria says to be eligible, you must identify as a woman or a non-binary individual. Do you know what that means? That means that even if you're a man and you identify as a woman or a non-binary individual, you can get into this program. So even though they state that men can't get into this, men can definitely get into this. All they have to do is be just crazy enough to make you think that they are indeed a lady, and you can get into this program. So hey, sorry, it's not as exclusive as people try to make it out to be, but they say be 18 years old, currently attend or have graduated in or after spring 2023. You have to have only a couple years of experience or less, which is funny because it seems that a lot of these Ubisoft employees develop games as if they've only had a year or two of experience, since a lot of their games are poorly executed and developed, riddled with glitches and controversies spanning far outside of the scope of the development itself. But hey, who's focusing on silly things like that? So how to apply, application period September 16th to the 27th. So that's just a few days from now. But what is so interesting about this program is that it has been around for quite some time. The Develop at Ubisoft Mentorship aims to attract and develop diverse talent for our studios around the world. With more people playing games than ever before, we have an exciting opportunity to create inclusive entertainment that is truly reflective of our diverse world. So this is their Develop at Ubisoft criteria. It explains everything that you have to do in this program in order to graduate from this program so that you can get a job in the future. And they go through everything that you have to do. But let's see what some of the people who are actually working on this program and helming this program have to say about it. For the fourth year in a a row. So 3 years prior, the Develop at Ubisoft mentorship program helped promising women and non-binary talents shape their dream career in gaming. Over the past months, 90 mentors from 19 Ubisoft studios welcomed 90 mentees who brought a fresh perspective and new ideas, or in simpler terms, DEI propaganda pushing, into game design and programming, and got to develop their own creative projects. Guillemette Picard, Senior Vice President of Production Technology at Ubisoft and the program sponsor, shared a few words to highlight the importance of running programs like Develop at Ubisoft. She says, "I've had great mentors over the years, men and women who helped me grow and shape my professional experience." Unfortunately, she's focusing mostly on women and non-binary individuals, not the men and women that helped her get to where they are, of course. Mentorship was and still is a rich and humbling journey. It allowed me to take a step back, challenge myself, seek new perspectives, and build my network. And I believe that it is as enriching for the mentor as it is for the mentee. It's why I'm so enthusiastic about the potential of Develop at Ubisoft to empower women and non-binary individuals who are in the early stages of their professional life in our industry, a space where we are still underrepresented. Now, keep in mind that this was very recently, but this program has been in place for a long time, and it's been controlled by the same people since then. So let's take a look at Guillemette Picard, SVP Production Technology at Ubisoft. I had to take a look at her activity to see just how much about video games she understands. And she says, "My drives are growth and technologies. For over 15 years, I've helped companies expand or develop new business and transform with new technologies via senior executive investor or director roles." And if you take a look at her experience, she has a very fascinating list of previous jobs. Currently, she's at Ubisoft and she's been there for 3 years and 5 months. So she's been there for a few years. She's probably been helming this program since the beginning. But she used to be a board member at CLS Group, operations and strategy at Nabla, and head of data and artificial intelligence. So it's very strange that Guillemette Picard has been put in charge of this program, but it gets even stranger the further you look. It says right here from Game Developer, and this is an article from a year ago. It says how Ubisoft is using a mentorship program to diversify its development teams. Ubisoft is hoping its new mentorship program will diversify its previously male-dominated workforce, and it's very important to note that this is one program that is a part of a much bigger project that Ubisoft is trying to push onto the masses. Ubisoft, the developer behind upcoming titles like Assassin's Creed Mirage and Star Wars Outlaws, is trying to diversify its workforce and find new talent through offering a mentorship program called Develop at Ubisoft. Game Developer visited Ubisoft's Toronto's office and talked with Aaron Roach, Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Ubisoft Canadian Studios, to learn more about their mentorship program, how other studios could implement similar programs, and how Develop at Ubisoft interfaces with the company's big moves in addressing toxic workplace and other misconduct allegations Ubisoft at large has faced across multiple studios. So this was put into place so that Ubisoft could try to clear some of their damaging rhetoric that people have been pushing their way. But it's not really just that. The program is in place because gaming studios and publishers everywhere are trying to push DEI into everything. So it's a lot of the same things that you're seeing here that you see being pushed in other facets of the industry, either through gaming consultancy agencies or policies that come straight from the video game developer or publishers themselves. And these guidelines being pushed from giant publishers like Microsoft and Sony all the way down to their game development bracket. It's a very confusing situation if you don't pay attention to how it is all connected. It says right here, highlighted in yellow, cisgender women as well as transgender, non-binary, or two-spirit applicants are invited to apply. And keep in mind, if you are a guy who is crazy enough to identify as a woman, then you will be welcome into this program. Roach talked at length about some of the major initiatives at the company. In the past 2 years, we've launched our whole diversity and inclusion team, and our Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, Rashi Sika, established a North Star around being the most inclusive entertainment and tech company. Now, that is a very interesting name, and I have to take a look at who this person is and what kind of history they've had, but not before we read the red highlighted sentence. Two aspects we talked about were how these initiatives improve the culture of the company and address their toxicity issues. Of course they do. Quote, "When it comes to the culture piece, we're really focused on improving the diversity of the team because seeing people who look like you advance in the company gives a much bigger sense of belonging. So it's important for us not to just have programs like Develop that create pathways into Ubisoft, but also have in place initiatives that help build that culture of inclusion so that people can do their best work. One major program we've implemented is, are you guys ready ready for this? Project Rise. So Project Rise, very interesting name for an initiative about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It says that Roach explained it's a 5-year strategy Ubisoft has implemented to not only recruit top-level talent from more diverse gender, racial, and ethnic backgrounds, but also to provide pathways for internal advancement of current employees into senior roles within the company. So that is 2 projects, one of them being a secret initiative that they've been implementing over the past couple of years. If you take a look at when this article was posted, it was back in 2023. But IGN reports back in 2022 that this was implemented. So we're about halfway through this initiative. So since that time, since this was reported and Rishi Sika helmed this project, they've probably increased the amount of people that are diverse in their workforce. Now, how much of that is translated to talent? I do not know. However, if you take a look at their current video game roster, a good chunk of these games look very underdeveloped, including Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, which was basically a bare bones ripoff of Assassin's Creed 3, but without all of the cool stuff in it and just the boat stuff. And we'll be taking a look at that IGN story momentarily, but first you have to understand what they're trying to do here. They want to provide pathways for internal advancement of current employees into senior roles within the company. So they're trying to fast track these DEI hires, these program finalists, into senior leadership positions. And why is that? Historically, it hasn't been working out for them, as their stocks are being completely destroyed, their investors are turning on them, their games are failing financially, and their fan bases are exhausted trying to defend them every single day. When it comes to addressing toxicity, Roach detailed some of their initiatives as well. What kind of toxicity are they referring to? Just like insulting somebody, telling a joke that may offend somebody? But they say we've developed a whole process for reporting either anonymously or non-anonymously. So if a situation of harassment or incivility occurs, there are anonymous channels externally to go to, and internally we have a whole new employee relations team that is focused on creating safe, inclusive spaces, which is what every organization needs apparently. So they are there for prevention, but also for addressing quickly if there are situations of concern. And they continue to go on saying, in addition to reporting initiatives, Ubisoft has established 7 global ERGs, employee resource groups, that are led by employees representing a variety of different communities, including Black, LGBTQ, Latinx, and neurodiversity communities, to name a few. But what about straight people? No, those people don't count. Please don't get it confused. These programs are not for you. They are for the special people that we just mentioned. These groups can put forward initiatives that help improve Ubisoft culture, including annual training on a variety of topics to gender-inclusive bathrooms. Now, that is a mouthful. That's a lot to go over, and it's tough to keep up with because these programs have so much in them and have so much money dumped into them. And now I'm starting to see a pattern here. They're trying to change their workforce. They were already celebrating a while back that they had successfully transformed 25% of their workforce into diverse and underrepresented gendered groups. They say that that's what they have done, and if they have, that means that their program is working effectively, and they are not showing any signs of slowing down. They still have their program activating in a few days, so people are going to be able to apply, sign up, and be a part of this program that has been in place for several years now. Which brings me to the Ubisoft launches 5-year plan to improve diversity at its studio story from IGN. Now, this was in September 2022. In fact, a couple of days ago, a year back. Very interesting. So Ubisoft is launching a 5-year plan to improve racial, ethnic, and cultural diversity within its studio and the wider company. This is Project Rise that they're talking about. As reported by GI Biz, a Ubisoft blog post delved into how the Assassin's Creed and Far Cry publisher is planning to evolve its workplace culture, one of which is through a new initiative called Project Rise. What the heck is Project Rise, dude? It looks to diversify Ubisoft staff by increasing the number of people from different backgrounds, focusing in particular on gender equality, race and ethnicity, LGBTQIA+ inclusion, and disability inclusion present at different parts of the company. So this is what they have been talking about, and this article is from 2 years ago. So they just launched this project back in September 2022. That puts us at almost the halfway point in this 5-year program, and we're already starting to see results both in the inclusivity and in diversity in the department departments at Ubisoft, alleged layoffs that we're going to be going over, as well as the failure of their games, showing that development is taking a backseat and diversity is taking center stage, with talent being put on the back burner and ideals being shoved into people's faces instead. You got to be represented. Everything has to be equal. Everything has to be diverse and inclusive, even if it means tanking our stocks, harms our reputation, and significantly affects the future of our financial success. So IGN reported on this a couple of years ago. This plan is already in place, but let's take a look at the person who is in charge of this plan, how Ubisoft is continuing to evolve its workplace culture. This is back in September 2022, just a few days before that IGN story. And this is on the Ubisoft website. So it says, over the last few months, Anika Grant, Ubisoft's Chief People Officer, and Rashi Sika, you see in that name again, VP of Global Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, have been traveling to different Ubisoft studios throughout Europe to meet with teams, sharing their strategic roadmap for HR and diversity, inclusion, and accessibility initiatives. And answering questions from team members, this roadshow will continue through the end of the year in Ubisoft's North American and Asian studios. So I'm seeing the name Rashi Sika again, and this person was the Vice President of the Global Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Department. So what these two ladies were doing was traveling across the world to different departments of Ubisoft and telling them, hey, you need to start advancing diversity and inclusion across the board. And so they were taking flights and sharing all of this information with everybody and making sure that this is being established 100%. Gender equality has been a priority at Ubisoft for a while now, both in terms of increasing the representation of women in the organization and supporting the development of women across different levels of leadership. This is from Rashi Sika during an interview. This is her response. Thanks to the great work of our talent acquisition teams and the investment of our HR leadership, women now represent 25% of our team members, up from 22% in 2020. A third of all hires over the last year were women. Additionally, we have 42% of women on our executive committee and 45% of women on our board at Ubisoft. So Ubisoft is full of ladies, and not all of them are actual ladies. Some of them may actually be non-binary. So they may be men pretending to be women. And this story was from 2 years ago, and they were already at 25% success with 45% or almost 50% women in several departments. So think of how many people have been changed out in favor of this Project Rise as of 2024, and how many women and diverse individuals are in this company now. It's no longer the Ubisoft that we knew and loved, who used to make wonderful video games. Maybe this is exactly why their quality has dropped over the past few years. They just can't make games that people love. They're far too focused on putting money into things that don't make sense. Maybe that was the CEO's intent, since they've been called out by AJ Investments and other investors for tanking the stocks intentionally to benefit themselves and to benefit Tencent. We'll have to touch upon that in a moment. So it says our efforts to better reach out to neurodiverse communities are evolving too. Last year, in partnership with HR, we created a dedicated neurodiversity program. This program is designed to help us recruit and support more neurodiverse talent so that Ubisoft will become the standard for neurodiverse inclusion at work in the coming years. Our global ERG leads meet with our CEO, Yves Guillemot, every quarter. This is a great forum for us to work together on areas of growth and progress, and for ERGs to share any potential concerns they have directly with Yves. So they directly report to Yves Guillemot, and he tells them, hey, you guys are doing a great job on this diversity, equity, and inclusion push. It is doing our company wonders, while behind the scenes, he's refusing to have partnerships with other companies like Blackstone, which I'm actually happy about, but they also prevent them from having other beneficial partnerships that could actually bring their value up, because the purpose of this entire thing is so that the Guillemot family can enrich themselves and Tencent as well, and they can amass total and full control of the company by tanking the stocks and buying the dip after demoralizing and relinquishing the trust of its investors. And they report straight to this guy. They cheer this guy on, and they're always giving him praise, as you will see momentarily. I look forward to these quarterly meetings. Great discussions happen there. Yeah, well, as of recently, the discussions up at Ubisoft's board of directors and their investment representatives have not been going well, as investors are starting to lose faith in this company altogether. But this rabbit hole does not end here. No, indeed it does not. Rashi Sika, she, her, of course. Chief Diversity, Inclusion, Accessibility, and Social Impact Officer at Ubisoft, co-founder at the Inclusion Company. So she is the co-founder of something called the Inclusion Company. I cannot even imagine. But what I find fascinating is that it appears that she has been promoted. That's right. It appears that she has done such a good job in pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion that Eve Guillemot, or whoever is in charge of her at this very present moment, has given her a higher paying job. It says right here, from 4 months ago, excited to share that I was recently promoted to Chief Diversity, Inclusion, Accessibility, and Social Impact Officer. Social impact, what an interesting word to keep coming across. I wonder if that will be relevant later in the video. This promotion is a testament of the impactful work that my fantastic team is engaging in alongside our talented colleagues at Ubisoft. A big thank you to Eve Guillemot, the CEO, who is purposely enriching himself using Ubisoft stocks, Cecil Russell or something like that, and all our teams for their trust and support. I am as excited today as I was on day one to continue this incredible journey with Team Ubisoft onwards. Here's a picture from my team summit last week, the people behind the impact. Now, yes, this does look like a splendid team of individuals trying to push diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, this is her specific team for that department that pushes these ideas and policies throughout the organization to ensure that diverse and equitous and inclusive individuals are put into prominent leadership positions so that they can have control over dealings within Ubisoft. This is part of Eve Guillemot's plan. This is something that he has signed off on and approved. And now things are starting to make just a little bit more sense. So this lady had a promotion. Remember what I was saying about that 25%? That percentage has to be far higher now because she got a promotion, which means she did something that Eve Guillemot really liked. But the contrast to this situation also fascinates me. If you remember Game Rant's article from August 16, 2024, they said that Ubisoft reportedly lays off employees across its US offices. Ubisoft has reportedly laid off 45 US-based employees in a cost-cutting move, marking the second round of job cuts in 2024. Major game companies like Microsoft and Sony have also implemented layoffs and restructuring post-pandemic. I do recall that Microsoft said they were doing away with their DEI department, but a lot of people, including myself, believe that they are really just trying to rebrand. And I don't see any changes coming from Microsoft. It looks like they're doubling and tripling down on these initiatives, as we are only halfway through Project Rise. But if this is true, it would mean that there is a necessity to such a program as developed at Ubisoft in Project Rise. Clearly, they're trying to push out employees that do not push their ideals, and they're trying to get people in there that do. And a lot of these people that do don't have the merit to actually make a video game that people enjoy. It's more about the PR, the HR, and the inclusive and diverse pushes that they've been trying to implement for as long as we can remember. Over the past few years, layoffs have become prevalent and recurring in the industry, brutally impacting major game companies as well as indie developers. But in reality, it's situations like these that put investors in such a frustrating position, where they have to start calling out the CEO, asking him to be removed, and asking for Ubisoft to go private and to make structural and financial changes that will impact the future of its company. They're sick of seeing things like this. They're sick of people getting fired, the stocks going absolutely down the drain. If you take a look at their stocks right here, they're doing horribly. And this is something that the investors are pointing out, the gamers are pointing out. And all of this is encompassing Eve Guillemot's leadership and Tencent's involvement in this situation. These people are getting rich off of Ubisoft's consistent failures. Their priorities are completely out of whack, but it seems that these programs that they're implementing and all these people that they're hiring into these positions who are making horrid decisions on behalf of the company are affecting the share value and the reputation of this company. As I said before, AJ Investments has taken notice of these enriching sessions, and we're trying to point it out in their open letter. Tencent bought 5% stake at around 66 euros per share. They point to the exact moment where they see this happen. In addition to Tencent investing 300 million euros into Guillemot Holding Company at 80 euro per share valuation. And then they point out one more. Guillemot Brothers Limited bought 4 million shares, 3.5% of outstanding Ubisoft shares at 19 euros. But the situation has gotten far worse since then. The stock continues to drop even after my previous reporting of them being at 13. They now dropped an entire point. It's not doing well at all, and I really don't see any signs of recovery as I've seen before. Of course, it looks like the price has raised just a little bit. Maybe they bought more shares. Maybe the Guillemots saw an opportunistic entry point and they decided to act upon it. Yes, this stuff is definitely getting spicy. So these people in these prominent positions, this vice president being made into the chief executive officer officer of this diversity, equity, and inclusion department. They're getting rich, they're getting more powerful, and they're becoming even more prominent and influential in this company while the stocks completely tank. The Guillemos get richer, gamers are met with even more disappointment, and we are only halfway through this Project Rise fiasco. IGN reported on this a while back. Do you remember this story? Ubisoft exec says gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games for subscriptions to take off. I never knew that they meant literally not owning their games. Maybe they thought that they were talking about us not owning our games, but in reality, people took this as not buying Star Wars Outlaws, not buying Skull and Bones. Gamers listened. But more importantly, this is the kind of mindset that Ubisoft has had. Look at how important they feel that DEI is, and look how little they talk about actual game development and providing players with an engaging experience. This is why AJ Investments is going after Ubisoft, because they recognize that Ubisoft's priorities are completely out of whack and that the CEO is pushing programs that nobody needs, spending money that nobody should be spending, and gaining more control of the company by weaponizing the company's failures. And that really is sad, but it is reality, and we're going to have to deal with it now. So speaking of financial failures, let's take a look at Star Wars Outlaws. Wow, they only have a couple thousand people watching live. Not as many people are interested in Star Wars Outlaws as the CEO and the company as a whole were hoping. And the same goes for Skull and Bones, who only have about 60 people watching. Again, this is supposed to be a gigantic video game, a quadruple A title from Ubisoft. They said that themselves. This is quadruple A gaming at its finest. This is top tier gaming. The media is taking notice of this. Not just Rock Paper Shotgun, not just IGN, but this is a story that is blowing up across the space. Ubisoft at its lowest point, but could bounce back. Yeah, right. Ubisoft is mismanaged. Shareholders are hostages. Investor demands video game company remove the CEO and go private, of course. Ubisoft investor calls for company to go private and CEO Yves Guillemot to be replaced. Ubisoft investor writes open letter to express deep dissatisfaction with company. GameSpot, Yahoo Finance, Seeking Alpha, Forbes, Comic Book, games industry, their reputation is tanking just like their stocks are tanking, and they are not showing any signs of recovery. And think on this. Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out in I don't know how many days? Just a couple of months, right? Now, if this game fails, that is going to show the investors that AJ Investments was right about the CEO, was right about Ubisoft's current direction. If that game fails, it shows a failure of leadership, a failure of game development, a failure of customer satisfaction, and that is what they've been trying to bring to the table. They want to show that the CEO cannot be trusted to deliver on his promises. They want to show that Ubisoft no longer knows what they're doing in the game development department, and they are far too focused on things that don't matter. Now, Project Rise, is this thing going to be a success? It looks to be a success right now. It looks like Ubisoft has transformed much of its workforce. I see people on X constantly posting pictures of what Ubisoft used to look like, with a whole bunch of regular dudes just making games, and now they're full of purple-haired women and LGBTQ plus individuals and non-binary folk, and that is something that you see as a direct result of Project Rise and develop at Ubisoft, diversifying the workforce and bringing inclusion into the space full throttle, which brings me to socialimpact.com, in which we discuss something called Bridge. Now, I know that Kirsch and other individuals have been reporting on Bridge for quite some time. It's not something that I've been able to look into that deeply, but I do understand that surveys like Bridge that are brought to multiple organizations to take to determine how ESG friendly their policies are, and gaming consultancy agencies who also push similar ideas, and programs like Develop at Ubisoft and Project Rise, they all encompass a very similar idea of pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is an initiative that is being backed by huge investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard and Blackstone. They're all part of the same idea. So even when you're pointing out one facet of this industry that is pushing such a thing, you can be almost certain that there has been some communication between that aspect and another aspect of this initiative. Bridge is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's also being implemented by multiple companies. Develop at Ubisoft is trying to do just that. They've already seen success, so you guys need to be careful about this stuff. Keep your eyes open, keep your ear to the ground, stay vigilant, because this stuff is only going to get worse. 25% of their workforce in Ubisoft being transformed was a couple of years ago. I cannot even imagine where they are at now. And seeing where Assassin's Creed Shadows is going and where Star Wars Outlaws went and where Skull and Bones went, I'm starting to see a pattern that is a direct result of these initiatives that they've been trying to push for the last few years. And these ladies who are now in these prominent positions have been given even more power so that they can continue to do Yves Guillemot's will. So all I can say is, Ubisoft, good luck to you. And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.